What's going on? It's your boy, Will Mike Craven. Uh, Hopefully y'all having a great day today. Hopefully, you enjoying yourselves to the fullest and maximizing your 24 hours that you're giving. With that being said, in regards to relationships, we have to be sensitive and the other individual and influence and the power that they do have. Um, when you understand the influence and the power that you have, you can get a lot of things that you want out of your relationship. But you have to do it in a seasoned manner. Because if you try to do it in a dictating manner, it's going to be considered controlling. And whichever side you're on, you don't want to be the one that's considered controlling, even though you may not necessarily be the one that's you not necessarily may be controlling. It's pretty much not. Anytime you're not being genuine or trying to do certain things, it may be perceived as you're being controlling. So, yeah, you have to understand your influence. And when you understand your influence, you then need to understand yourself and your own desires. That way you can actually start molding the person into, I don't want to say catering to you, more so adapting to you. Because when we start really diving into this thing, it's like relationships are like business. So you want them to be able to know how you move and how you operate. And when you start understanding this, it becomes easier. So I say that because this shirt here is what, 2001, maybe 2000? It's either 2000 or 2001. Yeah, this joint old, and I've kept it. I've kept it because I remember the power of the shirt. And it actually created the movement, to be perfectly honest. It was institutional in creating the movement back in that time period. And I was talking to an individual female at the time, and during that, like the beginning, the onset of 2099, all that stuff, straight males weren't really seen in this color, pink, and other pastel type colors. It just wasn't going on back then. It later became a thing in the early 2000s. And I remember this individual, she liked my whole skin tone. She thought my chocolate was very nice, and she actually made the suggestion for me to actually put on a pink or peach, a soft type color. And of course, me being, what was I, like 20 years old or so, 19 maybe, I was a little objective to it, but it was how she was moving and saying it that actually had me intrigued in doing it. So I ended up hearing it later from another group of women just talking amongst themselves. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll do it. But then she dared me. And at that age, when someone dared me, it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take this challenge. You dare me now, I'm not gonna really do nothing. I've grown past that, but yeah. So I just so happened to go in Old Navy. This is Old Navy, another one of them Old Navy shirts. I mentioned the one with my son. But yeah, I just so happened to go into Old Navy, and another woman ended up actually making this transaction happen. She was a Latina, downtown Chicago, Old Navy. I think it was on State Street at the time. It wasn't in the same location it's in now. So I go up the escalator, up the stairs, and I'm just looking, and I'm like, oh man, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do this? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I do this, I have to be 100% sure, unmovable when I do this. And I know I'm gonna have to start putting out jokes because everybody gonna start coming at my neck when I put this on and when I put a pink shirt on. So I'm spending at least 10 minutes just one of these. Like, I didn't have on this deal, but I'm like, man. So this little Latina comes up to me and she asks, like, are you okay? She's like, I noticed you're looking at this, and based on my assumption, I don't think you're gay. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like, yeah, I can tell, because the only ones who come in this section in this store is usually the flamboyant gay type guys. And she turns around and says the same exact thing that the female who wanted me to buy something like this. She's like, you know what, you have nice chocolate skin. I think it would look great on you, to be perfectly honest. And when she said it, it was like, I looked at her like, oh, okay. So I'm like, you think so? She's like, oh, yes. I was like, well, only reason I was thinking about it because this female I was talking to dared me to do it. She didn't think I'd be man enough to be able to handle it, and I was more impressionable about what other people may think of it. And so the whole time I've been standing here thinking like, all right, I'm going to really have to come with it. The jokes that I'm going to get from this. She's like, well, you know, like I said, I only see guys who come in here and buy this type of stuff. They're only the gay guys that come in here and buy it. And I think you can actually start a trend. So when she said that, it was like, me? I can possibly start a trend? Well, let's see if this will work. Sure enough. And the only reason she probably didn't ask me for my phone number was because she ended up turning around and was like, yeah, that girl, whoever it is that's got you to persuade you, she's lucky. Because, like I said, most guys don't come in here and they're not finna do it. They're not finna go on the limb. And if you finna go out on the limb, knowing what I know, and you're probably gonna get attacked for it, there's something special about you. Man, took my whole psyche to a whole nother level. Of course, yeah, I caught heat for it. I caught massive heat for it. Oh man, I remember. No, it was the pink shirt. That same chick. I was with my mother, and we went to this church because my mother wanted to go to this church because her friend was in town, and she was like one of her best friends. Next thing I know, she's up there. She was the preacher for that day. She starts preaching on dudes wearing pink. My mother looked at me, and old girl grabbed my arm like ever so slightly and just was touching it like, it was like, it's cool. I like it. And that's all that mattered. That was all that mattered. It didn't matter. Like when she said it's cool, I like it, there was nothing else to be said. Like, I did it for her. But it was like, I learned then, like, yeah, women control what we do, and we control what they do. And it like I say, that time taught me a whole lot, because my brother used to cut hair at this hair shop, and I came in that joint. Like, I knew in order to pull this off, I knew there was two things that had to happen. I had to be confident. And number two, I knew I had to smell good every single time. And that was it. So when I wore it, I always wore it with my best stuff, the fragrance that I had. And back then, I stayed in what used to be like Marshall Fields. Like, I was always getting cologne from there. I had tons and tons of free samples. I would butter up the ladies who worked there, and they loved the fact that I was just so secure in who I was. Like, yeah, they would give me so much more. So when I actually came, and I was still trying to be in the shop with my brother too, who was at the time at the shop, because I saw what he the whole charisma and everything that he garnered was just it was very interesting to me, and it allowed me to see even more than what I had already seen. Because like I said, I've said before, I grew up, my parents were preachers, so technically he wasn't my biological brother. I called each other brother because I was with him so much. But it basically, like, that's now at this point, that's my big brother. I learned so much from him. So it was like he grew up, his mother and all that was church too, but not like, it wasn't like my parents. So he was so much older than me too. So it was like, all right, cool. I got to see the whole world in a whole different light because of him. So of course, when I walked in, he was the other solidifier of this joint. So when I walked in, he didn't have no idea I had it. He saw me with it, and he was like, okay. And all eyes was on me when I walked through that shop. But they couldn't say nothing because of the clone I had on. It was like, hey, is that new joint? I think it was the Givenchy that had just came out, and I put that joint on with it. It was either Givenchy or it was that El Salvatore. I can't remember which one it was, but I knew I think it had to be that Givenchy because it had just came out, and it was like, hey man, that joint hot. So I had that with that joint, and at the time, if you're old enough, you remember they had just came out. So when I bought this stuff, what just came out was I want the what's the name? The bowling shoes. And Kenneth Cole was the first ones with the bowling type shoes. So when I came in, it was like, yo, this different. So a lot of the dudes was looking like, oh, okay, wait, what? But then it was the females in the shop who could tell. They already knew, so they could tell. It was like, he's rocking that joint confident. But my brother solidified it when he dapped me up. I was like, hey, bro, little bro, that's hot. And when he said it, it was like when he said it, it literally solidified all of the other dudes to be like, hey, if he owned it, yeah, we finna get on it. And so when he said it, all the other chicks was like, they gravitated to him because the man is just very charismatic. I mean, that is my guy. So like, it set when he said it, it changed the females in there. And it changed the dudes in there. So it was like, from that point on, dudes was getting pastel looking colors. And next thing I know, the couple weeks after that, dudes had the different color because they ended up coming out with a different color of them Kenneth Cole bowling looking shoes. And then other brands came out with their own. Like, well, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Next thing I know, I'm the college kid, and the rest of these they all in their late 20s and 30s, and I'm just a little 19, 20-year-old. I'm trying to keep up with them now because it looked like to me they following me. So yeah, man, when I tell you that time period was very, very teaching and telling. And that was the early stages of me learning that each side controls what it is that we do. And you have to be attentive and paying attention to that, because it'll technically, if you're paying very attention, it'll shape who you are. And it'll also shape the other individual. But yeah. I remember that every so often when I pull this joint out. Just like the joint with my son. It's not that often I'll pull this out, but I am definitely appreciative of that moment because, like I've said before, I don't care what you say about me. This here taught me tough skin. It literally taught me tough skin because I was even doing telemarketing back then. Yeah, like fresh in college doing the telemarketing job. Hated it, but I did it. And it was tons of women there. And a lot of the guys would be like, man, you just this little preppy. They would throw all kinds of shots. But one thing about it, they couldn't refute how the women respond to me. And I wasn't even talking to a lot of the females there like that. Well, no, the other thing was I couldn't at a certain point because old girl who suggested it started working there. Which that was a dreaded moment when I saw her walk through the door. So she started working there. So it was like she came in market territory. So it was like I couldn't really say too much, like or get an impression, but then people really thought like, oh, he talking to such and such, because people would just talk to me. It's been my whole entire life. So people would just talk to me. So it's like I really learned, like I definitely at that point learned what tough skin was. It definitely taught me like, I don't care what you say. I know the results. I know how people moving, and I'm watching them. So you can say all of what you're going to say. So you're not finna move me. You're not. Why? I'm not, like I said, I control me. You don't control me. I don't control you. So regardless of what you say, it's not going to have any true effect on me. Why? Because at the end of the day, I control me. And this is how, when we understand this, and even in a relationship, when you know you can control your own self and how you move, it's technically showing how powerful you really are. And of course, as I said in another video, as human beings, we're attracted to power. It makes you that much more attractive. So you can say all of whatever the heck it is you're going to say. It don't make a difference. It doesn't change who I am. And it shouldn't change who you are. You are your own individual. And I know I'm kind of deviating a little bit from the fact that, we're influential. But when you control your own self, you know how to move. You know how to be effective. And you know how to be effective. So, that being said, before I turn around and tell a whole nother story, and this turned into storytelling time, fix your face, fix your spirit, move in love, move in grace, and enjoy yourself to the fullest. I'm out of here. Holla at your boy.